The Media Center for Art Education and Technology, a service of the Monterey County Office of Education, along with the Herald Live, presents Prep Nation. Now to your hosts, Dave Kellogg and John Devine.
Welcome to Prep Nation. I'm Dave Kellogg alongside John Devine. We're in week 8 of football season, and who would imagine before the season that in week 8 we're going to have basically a division title game, and that's when North Salinas faces Alvarez.
Well, Gilroy might have some say in that.
You think so?
They're still, in that title hunt as well. But no, you're right. Nobody foresaw this coming. Unless you talk to some of the kids at Alvarez or North Salinas. And North Salinas is not as big of a surprise to me. This group of sophomores have been together, this group of seniors have been together since sophomores on the varsity, 16 of them. Mm-hmm. So they've come up together, they've grown up together. Head coach Stephen Zink's talked about this group since they were sophomores, saying, I really like this group, watch them when they're seniors. And what we've seen is 5 straight wins.
Now, they had a tough start to the season. They lost their first 2 games, but of course that was to Carmel and Salinas,
right.
two pretty tough teams, and then they seemed to really come together after that.
What's impressed me has been their defense. In those first 2 games, they gave up 92 points. During this 5-game winning streak, they've only given up 79. You take a look at this North Salinas program, and you sit there and say, well, who's the star? There really isn't one dominating guy that can kind of change the face of the game. But as a core, as a group of 45, 50 kids, they play well together. Mm-hmm.
They do have some real good standouts, of course. Justin Gutierrez, the quarterback you talked to today.
Correct.
David Dorr, the outstanding receiver. And they've got a pretty good running back, too, don't they?
Yeah. Well, they've got a couple. They've used 2 or 3 running backs. But Justin, as you mentioned, has really had a coming-out season issue for him. He's already set season highs for touchdown passes and yards, and he kind of runs that offense. He's been there for 3 years. Again, the stats aren't going to overwhelm you. He knows how to perform when the stage is at its highest.
Okay. Well, let's hear what Justin had to say.
Justin, when we talked back during the summer, you told me you thought this team was going to be special. But I want to know, what was going through your mind when you dropped those first 2 games of the season?
When those first 2 games we went 0-2, the first thing I thought through my head, and I'm sure all of our heads as seniors, is it's not going to, what went on these last 2 years is not going to go on this year. All the quitting that the seniors did and stuff, it's not going to happen. Our class is different, and we picked each other up, and we're just moving on from here.
Yeah. Now, you and David Dorr have built quite a chemistry as quarterback, receiver, but I've noticed a few other targets, namely Randy Ivey. Tell me a little bit about him.
Randy's he worked hard over the summer. He started off on defense, and now he's on offense, and I think he's opened up our offense, our playbook a lot more this year, and he's doing well.
Yeah. And watching film of Alvarez, what kind of problems do they present to you on defense?
On defense, I think they're all around hard-working defense. They hustle to the ball as fast as they can every play. I think they play hard, and I think it's going to be a good one.
Sure, absolutely. Battle of Unbeatens in the Pacific Division. Both North Salinas and Alvarez, big second-half wins last week. Is it important to score first in this game and get that momentum, keep that momentum?
Yes, I think anytime an offense gets the ball first to start a game, I think the objective is to score, and that sets the tempo of the whole game. If you score first, then you got a lot of confidence going into that next drive and also the next drive and so forth. Yeah.
Now, we know the adrenaline will be pumping in the early before the game. It always does in a big game. But what happens after that adrenaline wears off in the first quarter? And what I mean by that, what has to take over?
I think what has to take over is just remember what got us to this point, all the hard work and fundamentals and everything, just the hard work and all the fun. Just don't forget what got you there, fundamentals.
All right, Justin, thanks.
Thank you.
So, John, you were out there today on Tuesday. Was there a special feeling coming from the kids? Did they exude a confidence?
Yeah, but I've seen that all year with this team. Even when they were 0-2, I never saw any panic in North Salinas. And again, I think that goes with these 16 seniors that have been up there since they were sophomores. I think they felt they were a good team. I think they felt that they could play with Salinas and North High. They wore down a little bit in the second half. Mm-hmm. But I think they thought, even after those losses, we're going to be okay. This isn't going to be like it was last year or the year before.
And they're not surprised to be here playing for a title?
Well, I talked to Brandon Pena, their offensive lineman, who was the Pacific Division Monterey Bay League's Offensive Player of the Year last year, and he told me, we had a 7-on-7 scrimmage with Alvarez earlier this year, and he goes, it was very competitive. Mm-hmm. And he thought at that point, it wouldn't surprise me if we were playing for higher stakes later in the year.
Okay, let's hear more from Brandon.
Last year's offensive lineman in the NBL specific division. Brandon, how different is it this year coming out to practice versus last year?
The big difference between last year and this year is we noticed that a lot of the kids want to practice. We see each other at school, obviously, since we all in the same grade. We're all upperclassmen, and we all want to go to practice. We can't wait to go to practice. We come out, there's a lot of intensity.
Now, Brandon, if I had told you back in August that Alvarez and North Salinas would be playing for a potential league title in late October, what would you have told me?
I've actually would have told you that I'd believe that because in July, in the summer, we actually had a 7-on-7, and the kids from Alvarez, it's more of a bigger game than actually Salinas High because we know more kids.
Right.
We know the tradition is Salinas High and North High, but we feel like this is a bigger rival game.
Wow, yeah. Brandon, watching film of Alvarez, what impresses you and what concerns you about them?
What impresses me is their big plays. Like, they have a lot of big plays. They have the athletes to make big plays. And also their defense. They have actually improved a lot on defense, obviously, since they're undefeated.
6-0, yeah.
Yeah, but we have an offense that can score a lot of points, so this will be fun.
Speaking of which, you do have an offense that has shown that it can score a lot of points, but you also have a defense that has shown that it can shut down teams when it has to. Does this team have an identity yet?
I think we do have an identity. A lot of it is going into games expecting what's going to happen. We expect to make stops, we expect to make big plays, and we expect to score every drive.
So has this team hit its stride yet, or is it still peaking?
Honestly, I don't think our team has hit our stride because after every game we have a lot to improve on. We see that we can improve on, and every day we're working to get better.
Okay. Before we get out of here, I understand you got a few colleges looking at you right now as an offensive lineman. Good-sized guy here. Dream school in mind? Do you have one?
Yeah, I have been looked at by a few colleges, and my dream school is right now San Jose State. For a reason, I have a major that they specialize in, and it would be good to play for them.
Great. All right, 5 straight wins. Brandon, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been about 5 years, I think, since North Salinas has contended for a title, and they've had a couple of pretty down years, as you mentioned before. These seniors, the sophomores got kind of beat up moving up the ranks, but they seem to get stronger. What was Steve Zink's feelings about this group?
Well, one of the things he pointed out to me, he says, you know what, John, these aren't 15-year-old kids anymore.
Yeah.
You know, they're 17 and 18. They've grown up a little bit. And ironically, this 5-game winning streak comes 5 years after they won their first title under Zink back in 2008. It's just a confident group right now. And if you watched them, how they practice, how they act, how they conduct themselves, they're still very humble because they don't. They remember what it was like just a couple years ago. I mean, these 5 wins are 2 more wins than they won in the last 2 years combined.
Well, let's hear more from Coach Steve Zink.
Steve, you told me 3 years ago that you really liked this current group of seniors, 16 of which you brought up as sophomores. You're finally being rewarded, it looks like.
Yeah, you know, what we really liked about them is they never quit in any games, and could see the growth in them over the years as a freshman, that they really took coaching and really listened and really worked hard.
Yeah. Now, your first 2 games of the season, you gave up 92 points on defense. During this current 5-game winning streak, though, you've only allowed 79. What's changed?
You know, we kind of changed a little bit of our scheme on defense this year, and coming into the year, and I kind of felt like we were a little hesitant in the first 2 games, and we weren't really opening up what we do. And I thought that after the second game, the biggest difference, to be honest with you, it's the kids. They play and they make the biggest difference. And they made a decision second half of the Carmel game that they'd had enough of being tentative and not playing hard, and just playing scared basically. And since then, we haven't had any of those issues. So
You didn't fire the defense coordinator this time, huh?
no, not this time. No, Ben's doing a great job.
Is there a signature win during this 5-game winning streak, which I might add is the first 5-game winning streak you guys have had since you won a league title 5 years ago?
I thought the Santa Cruz game, we got in a situation, hit 3 different kinds of traffic on the way up there, and a 45-minute bus ride turned into 2 hours.
Wow.
And got off the bus, and the kids looked like they were asleep. The coaches looked like they were asleep. I fell asleep, and we came in the first half and turned the ball over 4 times and found ourselves down 20-6. And I felt like in the previous 4 years that would have been the end of the game, and we would have folded it in. And there was no yelling, no screaming by anybody, and it was calm at halftime. Here's what we need to do, players and coaches, and we just came out and executed and did what we were supposed to do the whole game.
And watching film of Alvarez, what concerns you about them, what they do? Who, like you, is having a kind of a comeback season as well?
They play really hard, and that's something that, that's something I always pride our teams on, and something we kind of look for on film is, most teams at some point are going to quit during a game.
Right.
And, they've had 3 opportunities being down to quit, and they haven't, and fought back. And, undefeated is true believers are always hard to beat.
That's true. There's only 3 of them left in the county right now. Edric Gamble, their quarterback, he looks like a difference maker. Is he someone that you got to keep from getting off to the edges a little bit, particularly when he scrambles?
He's, I think, anytime you have a quarterback that's mobile and really the key to the offense, any quarterback in any offense, I think you got to contain, and he's definitely the key to, I think, their offense. He wins it with his legs, he wins it with his arm, and he really leads them on the field.
Right. Now, your quarterback, Justin Gutierrez, has also set season high, career highs for touchdown passes in a single season. What's changed for him?
He's always been a hard worker, and he's always been intelligent, and he's always done the right things. He's really got better with his legs this year running the ball, and he's I'm trying to think of the nice. You always say coach on the field with the quarterback, and he's definitely that, but he reads the defenses, and we have a lot of built-in checks this year. And we used to have come into a game with 1 or 2 checks, and I think we have every single play we have a built-in check now. And if he doesn't like what he sees, he has the ability to change it.
Great. And if we get there, Steve, I know it's something that's real important to you, and it probably should be to a lot of coaches, and that's grades. And from what I understand, not 1 kid lost this year to eligibility?
No, none on varsity. And actually 1 on JV. And really, it's been really nice. My first year here, when I came in, we were a 1.4 the year before I got here, and lost 26 kids to grades. In the last 7 years, we lost 1 kid to grades. So this year, finally 0.
Winning on and off the field. Thanks, Steve.
Welcome. Thank you.
Last week, Christopher almost ruined this title game party, leading most of the way against Alvarez. What happened?
Well, Alvarez fought back, and that's something they've done on 2 other occasions this year. This is a program that's 6-0, but has had 3 come from behind wins in the second half. This might have been a signature win for them, though, just because, they beat Hillsdale early in the year, who was undefeated at the time, but that was 3 weeks into the season. This is 6-7 weeks into the season. Christopher, a team that we all tabbed, we thought would win the Pacific Division, felt that their stay in the Pacific Division would be brief. Now it's dropped back-to-back games, ironically, to North Salinas and Alvarez.
Yeah. So Alvarez showed a lot of character in this victory.
And I think they have all year. David Bottom's really got this group of kids to buy into what he's preaching. We were out there 2 weeks ago for practice, and there was just a lot of emotion, a lot of energy out there, and I think it's just snowballing right now. The more wins they get, the more confident they get.
Okay. Let's move now to the Gavilan division. A big game coming up would be Salinas against Monterey. Monterey coming off the big win against San Benito, where they pulled away in the 4th quarter. You said you felt like Monterey really rebounded from that loss against Palma when they had the lead, the halftime lead, and then lost in the second half. And against Hollister, they pulled away rather than
Absolutely, and I think that was something that head coach Tom Newton said 2 weeks ago after that loss to Palma, 3 weeks ago after that loss to Palma, hey, we're going to learn from this, we're going to grow, and that's exactly what happened. Hollister came back and tied that game,
right,
at 21-21, and you could be thinking, oh, here we go again, we blew a lead, but no, instead they went out and scored the last 14 points of the game, and almost made a little bit of a statement, in my opinion. That was in Hollister.
Yeah.
As I mentioned last week, where the field gets a little damp at night, and it's a big crowd, it's a hostile crowd, and they responded on the road with a big win.
You were impressed, too, with the way Carter Aldretti threw the ball.
I have been all year. If you watch him, he's got a lot of poise for a sophomore. The thing is he's given Monterey a dimension they haven't had maybe in forever, or maybe since his dad played quarterback 30 years ago. They can throw the ball now, and they've got some fleet receivers on the outside. Brandon Fione stands out as one. That we look at Monterey and we say, they're stagnant. They're going to run the same offense year in and year out every play, but now they can throw the ball a little bit, and I think that's keeping opponents from putting 9 in the box.
Did you get a little bit of a glimpse of that against Palma? I saw them against Palma too, and when they fell behind, they started throwing the ball, and I felt like, hey, they might just be able to throw the ball this year.
I did, although I think in that Palma game, I saw, again, a young team show maybe a little bit of immaturity and not being able to hang on to that lead. And again, some of that goes to the credit to Palma. Palma's been there for years, and they showed that. Now I think we're seeing what Monterey, they're growing up together as a group.
Now, what about Salinas? They really got it in the jaw this week against Seaside. How do they rebound?
Well, Steve Goodbuddy's been in this situation before in terms of, he always says, you know what, we want to be playing our best football around Thanksgiving. So clearly Salinas is not playing their best football right now. And their 3 losses, ironically, all at home, they've committed 12 turnovers. Now, Seaside looked phenomenal last week. I mean, that's the best performance I've seen by any team this year. I mean, in all phases of the game. Even head coach Al Alba said, I don't know where this came from.
Yeah.
But in Salinas' case, I still don't see an identity with this team yet. I mean, we know about Elijah Kirkland, we know about Jordan Torres, but when teams bottle them up and they're forced to throw a little bit, sometimes they I want to say panic, but they don't play as well as they have.
Yeah. I want to touch on Seaside for a minute. They have the week off. I bet Avila would love to be playing this week after last week.
You know, I don't know. They got a little banged up a little bit too, so maybe a week off's good for them. But at the same time, I do agree with you. When you play like they played against Salinas, in Salinas like that, and you probably want to keep going. I said that about Palma 2 weeks ago after they beat Seaside, and then they had a bye week. And we'll see how they react this week at LSL.
Do you think Seaside keeps it going from here, or do you think it was an aberration?
You know, they switched quarterbacks.
Okay.
Brought in Lorenzo Johnson, and he can throw the deep ball. And why teams don't double Ronnie Turner is a mystery to me. I mean, he was open for a 79 and an 89-yard touchdown pass. I mean, you're cutting your own throat if you don't put 2 guys on him, and at least one of those guys has got to be 6 feet tall.
Is that right?
He can out-leap everybody.
Okay.
That being said, when they moved Chris Evans back to the backfield, Seaside came out with a no-huddle offense. And I think it threw Salinas off a little bit. And there were people on the Salinas sideline saying, who's this quarterback? They weren't prepared for this.
But we did see him earlier in the season against Zapdos, I believe.
And he
right?
didn't look good at all. He had
Right.
3 interceptions. And again, some of that may be the fact that he got thrown into the mix real early in the second half, and maybe that was a little bit of a surprise. This week, Lorenzo looked prepared. He looked composed. He buys time for himself when he's in the pocket. He doesn't panic. You know, he eludes
the play.
He extends the play and he eludes defenders and somehow finds a receiver. And they've got a bunch of them at Seaside.
Okay. Let's move now to the MTAL. This Saturday we have PG taking on Stevenson. Stevenson just got routed by Carmel this past Saturday. PG continues to be on a roll. How do you see this one going?
Well, I see PG and Carmel meeting for an MTL title in 3 weeks. And again, I think Stevenson just doesn't have enough firepower right now. What Carmel was able to do last week is they were able to shut down their running game, namely Drew Miller, who had some big games early this year, including a 285-yard effort against Soledad. Stevenson, you know, they can play with these teams. I just don't know if they can hang with them for more than, you know, for a full game. I mean, they just wear down a little bit. Now, Pacific Grove didn't look great against Marina last week, and some of that has to do with Marina and the improved program they've had.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if the Breakers might have been just looking a little bit ahead.
And that's why I wonder about this weekend if they'd get trapped. But from everything I hear, they could overcome a trap game situation.
They could, and I don't see that. If they had a bit of a letdown, it would have been last week. And I think that might have been a wake-up call for them to see it only be up by a touchdown on Marina in the second quarter. I think that kind of woke them up a little bit. They're a little dinged up, too. So they're trying to get healthy for that stretch run as well.
Looking now at the South County, M-Kate was down. We were down with M-Kate seeing the King City Greenfield game. A big South County game this weekend is King City and Soledad. Do you think we're going to get a CCS playoff team out of the South County?
Perhaps. I mean, and a lot of it hinges on what happens maybe tonight or Friday night when these two teams play. You know, last year 3 teams from the MTL made the playoffs, and Stevenson had a 10th game, and it had been a win. They might have snuck in there too based on points. I think King City right now is in a better position than Soledad, just for the fact that if they beat Soledad, they've only got 1 league loss right now. They still have Stevenson. They still have Pacific Grove on the menu. I mean, perhaps a third team can get out of there. Soledad's going to maybe need some help to get that to go back to the playoffs for a 3rd straight year. But
do you think Soledad's a little bit down mentally after really getting spanked by PG 2 weeks ago?
well, they bounced back with a school record 62 points against Gonzales last week.
That's
So,
right. Okay.
I mean, Solid has a lot of talent. I mean, when you look at Jeremiah Murillo and Jose Martinez, one of the receivers, I mean, I'm almost a little surprised that they're not playing better this year. And again, they've gone up against some good teams when you look at what North High's done and what, you know, the Carmels or Pacific Grove's done. But they're a little bit of a disappointment to me right now.
Okay. All right, let's take a look at some of the other fall sports. Field hockey, what's going on there?
Well, North Salinas is likely headed back to the playoffs. They're undefeated right now in league play, and Jocelyn Guerrero's just been on fire for them. She's had 4 goals and 4 assists in her last 2 matches.
Okay. And what's the latest with cross country?
Pacific Grove. We don't talk a lot about cross country. We probably should. It's a sport that I actually ran once upon a time. But they're undefeated both in the boys and girls right now. The boys knocked off King City a couple weeks ago, and the girls that we mentioned had beaten Santa Catalina, who's the defending league champions. Some people think Pacific Grove might have the best girls team in the county.
Oh, well. And in volleyball, I hear there's a big match coming up.
Well, it's still 2 weeks away, but we've got King City and Carmel that'll meet for a second time in the MTL, and right now it looks like that could be for the league title. Both these teams have knocked off Catalina, the defending champions. But King City has the slight edge right now because they've beaten Catalina and Carmel.
Okay. And where's the match going to be?
It'll be down in King City, and if you ask Santa Catalina, they understand what the crowd feels like down in King City. Apparently it was a nice crowd, vocal crowd. We told everybody that was what was going to happen down there. And I think it helped King City a little bit in knocking off Catalina in 5 games.
How do you think Carmel will adjust to that?
Well, they have Carly Eggers back.
Okay.
And we talked about her coming back from the ACL. She had 29 kills in a win over Catalina. Volleyball, the kids aren't used to that type of a crowd, so it could rattle them in game 1. I think that's what happened with Catalina. They did bounce back and win the next 2 games before King City won it in 5. But I think Israel Ricardis, the Carmel coach, he's aware of that. He understands that. I just like the job that Debbie Hudson's doing. I mean, she's brought back that magic to King City, and people forget that she led this team to a state championship back in 1990, which seems so long ago. She hasn't changed. She looks the same. You and I have. But she's just done a nice job down there.
Okay, for all the scores, make sure and follow us on Twitter. You can go under the hashtag MCScores, where we keep all the local scores updated. On Friday night, you can go to MontereyHerald.com, where we do a live prep football blog, where you can keep track of the scores and the going-ons and the comments and our great insights. Also, John J. Devine is a great person to follow on Twitter as well.
The Monterey County Herald, news at your fingertips 24/7. With the Herald newspaper, website, and mobile apps, you get local, national, and international news, photos, and video. Local news written by local journalists from the largest news outlet in Monterey County. Breaking news online or directly on your mobile device, including up-to-the-minute weather. The Monterey County Herald is more than talking heads and sound bites. It's award-winning journalism at your fingertips 24/7.
Okay, we're back with Tommy Wright, who covers the JCs and CSUMB sports for us. Let's start with JC football. This week was the Coast Conference opener. MPC and Hartnell, both winners. Let's start with MPC, though. That was a pretty thrilling game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. They were trailing for a while. They had to rally back from 17 points down. And Andrew Ludenbach, he's really coming into his own, the MPC quarterback there. He hit Ivan Corona Ramirez for the game-winning touchdown with just over 2 minutes left. And they needed a little bit more. They had to shut down Gavilan after that. But, first off, Akil Marsh on the touchdown before MPC came back, he blocked the extra point, which was that 1 point difference in the 34-33. So if he doesn't get that blocked extra point, it's tied up and they're going into overtime.
And they're probably still playing.
Yeah, exactly. But then Joseph Griffin and then Rufino Calderon, North County alumnus, both of those guys had some big sacks on the final drive for Gavilan that kind of ended things
For
there.
MPC, you mean?
Yeah, against Gavilan.
So the defense steps up when the back was against the wall.
Yeah, that was something that they did when I saw them in their only other win so far this year. And that's something that MPC is definitely going to need out of that defense. I mean, the offense can only carry them so far. Andrew Ludenbach is, like I was saying, he's coming into his own as a freshman. And another positive point on that offense is they did seem to finally establish a running game of some sort. And so that's going to be important. Early on, it was really just, all the teams knew that they were going to be throwing the ball and they could kind of sit on that and they didn't really have to worry about the run so much. But Joshua Ross had 83 yards on 17 carries, which is a pretty good number. So if they can continue getting the running game going, that'll really open it up for the passing game. And they won't have to rely too much on the defense. If the defense can just get stops when they need to, they'll be in good shape.
Speaking of it being in good shape, Hartnell with a real big win over West Valley, and DeAndre Mann with a good rushing day, another good rushing day?
Yeah, 51-0 over West Valley. I was expecting Hartnell to win this game, but not by a 51-0 margin. That's pretty impressive. They got to be the team to beat at this point in the Coast Conference. They're the only team with the winning record when you look at their overall play. everybody else, you have MPC and San Jose City College both at 2-4, 1-0 in league in the Coast Conference play. So Hartnell really seems like the team to be. Yeah, DeAndre Manny only needed 9 carries to get 4 touchdowns and 127 rushing yards. So I think they figured that they didn't have to get him out there too much. But there was plenty of balls to go around to everybody on the offense. 8 different guys caught passes. Michael Turner hit David Day for a touchdown. The defense looked good too. I mean, they posted the shutout. Kapil Fletcher led the team with 6 tackles. Sheldon Wynn had 3 tackles for a loss. So they're really running on all cylinders.
So now West Valley plays MPC this week. MPC has to be feeling pretty good about that matchup, I assume.
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to be 51-0, but I mean, you do have to wonder how West Valley is going to come out of this game. Are they going to be upset and angry, or are they going to be kind of knocked down and defeated? So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, MPC that has to be a little confidence boost for them to open up with a win and then go into this game that seemingly should be a win for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, let's move on to JC women's soccer, and Hartnell's having a pretty good season, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really starting to get it together at the right point of the season. They're currently in 4th place in the South Division of the Coast Conference, but they're on the way up. They really struggled to start Coast Conference play, but they seem to be getting going now. They're within striking distance of 1st place. San Benito alumna Carly Leon had a hat trick in the first game over the weekend. Then Soledad alumna Selena Murillo also had a hat trick in the second game. So they're really getting going at the right time there.
Staying on women's soccer, how are things at CSUMB and their women's soccer team?
They kind of just seem stuck at 500, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. They fell 2-0 to number 10 CSU Stanislaus, which is a really strong team there. But then they turned right around and got a victory at CSU East Bay. Kristen Womack had a goal, which that was something I'd been harping on early in the year, that they have to get some more scoring out of people besides Jamie Murray, who she really just exploded early on. But now it seems like Womack's kind of picking up the pace there as well. The Otters are at a place where they still have a shot at making it into the postseason.
So if they play 500 the rest of the way, will they get in the postseason, you think?
Probably not. They're probably going to have to finish up with a winning record, at least get 1 or 2 wins there in games that maybe they shouldn't.
So they're going to have to put together some kind of streak, some kind of hot spot.
Yeah, exactly. They're within striking distance of the 4th and final spot of the CCAA tournament, but they're going to have to get another win or 2 in games that they shouldn't to try and advance.
Now, what about the men's soccer team? How are their postseason chances looking?
The men are looking to be in pretty good shape. They're still sitting atop the Coast Conference North, the CCAA North. And they also split their games over the weekend. The first game was a tough loss. It was in double overtime that they fell, but then they turned right around, and Servando Perez had a game-winning goal in stoppage time, which boosted them over CSU East Bay. So I think they're in pretty good shape. They do have a couple tough matches left. They're heading out on a road trip right now, but UC San Diego seems to be the only team that should give them trouble there.
Oh, okay.
And so they have 3 games on the road, and then they close their season at home against Chico State, which, for whatever reason, Chico State's in the CCAA South. I'm not sure if that's...
they're way north of us.
Yes, so I'm not sure if that's like kind of an equality league kind of thing or what. I'll have to check on that, but they're going to wrap up their season against the Wildcats, and that should be a tough one. If they can win that one and win the games they're supposed to down south, I think they'll be in good shape.
Okay. How about the volleyball team?
They're winning the games that they should win, but they're kind of having trouble against the superior opponents. They did have a big win over the weekend, but they're currently at 6-5 in CCAA play, and they're going to have to do a little bit better than that, I would say, if they want to try and make a spot in the NCAA tourney. But their young players are continuing to improve. DJ Gresham Ryder, she ranks among the top blockers in the CCAA. I believe she's currently 5th. She had 12 over the weekend. And then sophomore libero Rachel Cookus, she led the Otters with 22 digs in their loss to number 11 Sonoma. So if those young players can continue to improve, they might have a shot at reaching the NCAAs.
Okay. The other happening on CSUMB campus this week
is the basketball.
Basketball season practice has started.
Yeah, when we were out there last week, they were having some unofficial kind of little get-togethers starting to get going, but then they finally got going, and I'm expecting some big things. we'll talk about it some more next week.
Yeah,
But
I'm putting you on the hook for that one.
okay, the women's team's obviously coming off of a big season, but they have a new coach there. And the men's team, I think we're looking at they might finally get over the hump there. So we'll look at them some more next week.
Thank you for tuning in to Prep Nation. We'll be back again next week.